Hello there you guys, I hope you're all doing well. Today I am very excited to share with you a new little recipe that I've crafted. It's one I've been working on this last week. As some of you know, things with my pup Hazel have been a little bit rough lately. I thought I was in an upswing with her the other week and things have just kind of gone downhill a bit again. So we've had quite a few sleepless nights and just a lot of busyness. So I wanted to take some time this week to craft something that I hope a lot of you will find useful as well for either just general day-to-day tiredness and issues sleeping, or for those times when you're having a rough, busy week and just need some help getting to sleep at night. So I've created some Magick honey chamomile biscuits. They're pretty basic, pretty simple. That's my favorite way to do kitchen witchery, especially for something like this that is really something you don't want to put too much time into, as you're probably still pretty tired and just need a quick fix that is calming and attainable. As most of you know, my preference for crafting spells that deal with the body or emotions or just internal human things is to make something edible. And of course, as I have a bit of a sweet tooth and love baking, it usually ends up with something that's a baked treat. Though I tried my best this time to stay away from something a little too sweet, as you don't really want something that is overpowering right before bed. So I went with a biscuit over a more classic pastry of sorts. So with that said, let's jump into the ingredients you'll need to craft your very own honey chamomile biscuits. There are two separate portions to crafting this, as first you're going to have to make some chamomile milk. This is something that I've shared recipes on and made with you all quite a few times before, and it's definitely one of my favorite ways to infuse herbs into your cooking. And for this, you're just going to need a good handful of chamomile along with 3/4 cups of milk. Now for the biscuit portion, you'll need 2½ cups of flour, 1½ tablespoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of butter, 1/4 cup of honey, and that 3/4 cup of chamomile milk that we will have made in the previous chunk. So you don't need extra milk, but I just thought I would add that in there because if you want to write down that and know what chamomile milk is, then there you go. As with most herbal magic and kitchen witchery, the power comes from the ingredients used along with your intent. Essentially, it's the direction of the energy that you put into it. So for this spell, it's specifically for sleep. Though you also are very welcome to make this spell in regards to just adding peace and calm to your day, not necessarily sleep. This is where intent comes into play. For myself, my intent with the spell was for sleep. And so as I was crafting it, as I was working my energy into it, I was working my energy in the direction of sleep. Working that in with every stir, every need, every moment with it, just pushing it towards that direction. And as the main ingredients of this spell, the components that are at least magical, chamomile and honey, chamomile having a sleep, calm, healing energy, and honey adds sweetness. Honey is my favorite type of addition for spells that need a little bit of sweetener, and as nights have been a little crazy here, sweet sleep sounds absolutely amazing to me. So that's why those two are working together on this. And that mixed with your intent is what crafts the spell. So to make the recipe and craft the spell, first begin by making the chamomile milk. This is very simple. Just take the milk, add it to a saucepan, and bring it up in heat. I typically do not bring it to a boil. I just get it to the point where it is steaming and a little bit warmer, and then I add in a good handful of chamomile. Feel free to add in as much as you want. You can use chamomile tea bags or loose leaf. I have loose leaf chamomile, so that's what I went with here. But it's really up to you and what you have on hand. Then allow it to steep. honestly, you're just making tea with milk. It's really no different. And chamomile, I like it at a little bit of a lower level. You're welcome to make this as strong or as not strong as you would like to. It's really up to personal preference here. Then once that's all infused and you've given it a good stir, I like to work some intent in at this point once I add the chamomile, just stirring and working in intent. Take it off the heat and allow it to cool. Typically take a little bit of a break here to let that cool down because the biscuits, you'll want the butter within them to be pretty chilly to get a nice flaky biscuit, and adding in warm chamomile milk will melt the butter, and so that's not really what you want. So I just take a little break, maybe do some of the dishes that you have started, or just prep for the extra part of making the biscuits. Once that bit of time has passed for it to cool, it's time to start making the biscuits. Begin by combining the flour, baking powder, salt, and sugar. Really just make sure it's all mixed well together. Then take your butter. I like to have it chill in the freezer for a little bit. Typically I'll put it in the freezer right when I start making the chamomile milk, and then it will be at the point of coldness that I prefer. And then for this part of the process, I just cube the butter and then cut it into the pastry with a pastry cutter. Though you are also welcome to pinch it in with your fingertips or a fork. Whatever works best for you. Really, you just want to get it all in there until it's kind of crumbly. Then once that's all mixed together, take out your chamomile milk and add your honey to it. You could add each separately, but I think that it is a lot easier when you mix the honey together in with the chamomile milk. You avoid getting any odd chunks of honey just here or there, so this is just makes the rest of the mixing process a little easier. Once that's all mixed, pour it over the other mixture and give it a loose mix with a wooden spoon. Really, you just want to get it to be just combined. It's okay if it's still crumbly and not all together. This is just the initial mixing. Once it's kind of clumping together, it's not all the way mixed, but is pretty okay. Pour it out onto a floured surface and begin folding it over itself. Do this 5 or 6 times. You don't want to overwork the dough, but you want it to be layered and together. Then flatten it out with the palm of your hand. Don't use a rolling pin here. It's okay if they're a little rough. Biscuits are meant to be a little rough. And take a biscuit cutter and cut out as many as you can get. Typically, I'll get about 3 or 4 in the first smush. Oh, and you want it to be about 1 inch thick. And then I just smush it together to get the last 2 or 3. You'll get about 6 biscuits out of this. Now, if you don't have a biscuit cutter, a glass works just as well. Really just anything that you can cut a circular shape out of. Then add them to a tray and bake at 425 for 12 to 15 minutes. Bake time may vary though. I am working on figuring out a new oven and am struggling quite a bit with it because it is very different from anything I've ever worked with. So cook times, just keep an eye on them. I cannot tell you for sure, but 12 minutes has been about my average with them. Now also, if you're someone with a bit of a sweet tooth, you may want to add a sprinkle of sugar on the very tops of them before popping them in, but this is also something you can do after with brushing some butter and sprinkling it on as well. Once the bake time is up, pull them out, allow them to cool, and enjoy. You're welcome to enjoy them with a bit of butter and honey or just as is. And if you want a more savory biscuit, feel free to add less sugar. I was making them for a bit with just 3 tablespoons of honey and 3 tablespoons of sugar, but they were far more savory for my liking. I wanted something that was just a little bit sweeter. But it's up to you for sure what your preference is with all of this. And honestly, these are still a little bit of a work in progress. I have not had as much time as I normally like to figuring out these types of recipes and spells because my puppy has been sick, but I am pretty happy with them, and honestly I kind of think it's fun to have a work in progress shared, and maybe I'll bring them up again one day when I have noodled them out a little bit more, perhaps on my other channel. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to help support this channel, I'd really appreciate it if you checked out my Patreon. I know it's not for everybody, but it really does help keep things up and running over here. There, I just share my art and some other fun things with you all. And if you want to check out my other channel, I would really appreciate that. It will be linked down below. There, I share a little bit more of the realities of my life and make films and fun things that are just beyond the witchy herbalist side of myself. So there's some big things coming over there, and I am looking forward to what's to come. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.